At the end of 2022, I embarked on a New Year annual review process using a multi-step guide that a friend sent me that assessed all the different pillars of our lives. And at first, I was completely overwhelmed, but I figured it would be worthwhile to spend the time just assessing the big picture. And dear viewer, the results were jarring enough that I wanted to do a full video on it because it led to this colossal realization. We'll link the full review guide in the description of this video. Prior to the exercise, I thought I was crushing life, but I found there was actually plenty of room for improvement, and here's what I noticed. Number one, physically, I was exercising 5 to 6 days a week, which is great, but I wasn't eating very well. I think I was clocking 1 serving of vegetables every several days. Number two, financially, while my husband and I were doing a great job of tracking toward our goals, we tended to really go off the rails with our food spending to a level that felt inexcusably wasteful. Number three, relationally, because we both work full time, our quality time usually resorted to watching TV or reading together, which wasn't very active. And number four, creatively, while my job is creative, I didn't have any creative outlets that were low stakes and just for fun. And at first, I wrote all of it off as just uncomfortable truths that I did not have the time to fix because it would require 4 or 5 independent goals to do so. So I almost closed out the document and decided that 2023 didn't have to be better than 2022. But then I had a bit of a brain blast. And I thought, what if I just combined these? I realized that the easiest way to reliably hit multiple meaningful goals would be to create habits that layer on top of one another. So the guide basically suggested 4 steps, and I'm adding a 5th inspired by a piece by Nat Eliason on de-atomization, which I will share more about shortly. Number 1, identify the key areas of your life that you care about. So the guide listed physical health, mental health, spirituality, creativity, family, your relationships, work, fun, travel, and finances. Number 2, rate their current presence in your life on a scale of 1 to 10. Number 3, determine what you want to continue, stop, and start doing in each category. And number 4, create your goals that speak to each category. So my revelation added this 5th one, which is number 5, if you can, transmute the goals into repeatable habits that just knock out multiple categories simultaneously. Now, my brain blast was informed by Nat's perspective about de-atomization. In other words, undoing the ways in which, and these are his words, not mine, late-stage capitalism is conducive to an atomized existence, wherein your work is disconnected from your physical fitness, which is disconnected from your socializing, which is disconnected from... Do you see where I'm going with this? And Eliason concluded, quote, the more creatively we can integrate the various parts of life that matter to us, the more satisfied we'll be in our day-to-day, end quote. When we used to do manual labor for money, we didn't need to attend an exercise class before our sedentary day jobs began. And when we lived in communities that were mostly just filled with our friends and family, we probably made more affordable meals together and then took long walks after dinner. I don't know. Because all of our important life experiences were somewhat interconnected. Money, work, friends, family, physical health, they all supported one another. So life didn't feel as much like an endless checklist of competing priorities to be constantly, exhaustingly weighed against one another for possession of one of your 16 daily waking hours. The closest metric that I can think of that reinforces this phenomenon of atomization is the rapidly growing statistic for single-person households in the US. In other words, people who live alone and might even work from home and therefore have to make a much more deliberate effort to socialize with others. Though I've never lived alone and I still very much experience this issue within my suburban nuclear family life. But de-atomization isn't just the secret to deeper happiness. It's the secret to habits that help you reach your goals. I realized that reinstalling some interconnectedness between these pillars and their associated goals made the process so much less stressful. For example, I saw that I could kind of address all 4 of my earlier findings with just one new habit: cooking. Cooking would ensure that I'm eating better because I will actually make an effort to intersperse the cans of sour cream and onion Pringles with meals that include broccoli. It would address our inexcusably high $2,500 a month food spending. It would provide a low-stakes creative outlet for trying new things regularly, and it would give my husband and me something fun to do together. I'm mostly encouraged by the fact that this is no longer simply about saving money or eating better or having a creative hobby or hanging out with my husband. It's about all four of these things in one relatively simple lifestyle change. Now, in March 2023, I am 3 months in, and I can say that our food spending has decreased by 60%. We spend more time together after work, and we sit at the table together around a home-cooked meal now. I wasn't really tracking my vegetable intake before, but I am actually eating greens on a daily basis, and I'm genuinely enjoying coming up with new recipes and trying new things. While the individual goals were important, the habits are what really matter. So in this case, it includes making time to grocery shop on the weekends and devoting mental energy to determining what we want to make and then setting aside the half hour every night to make it. The real hurdle is establishing those new habits. It's your inputs that will inevitably create the desired outcomes of creativity, togetherness, saved money, physical health, if enacted. This process helped me reconsider the way I structure my entire day. Because after reflecting on what I like and don't like about my life now as a semi-self-employed work-from-home girly, I realized a couple of things. Morning routines that are too long or require me to do too much before I can start my day actually stress me out. I don't like the long leisurely mornings. I'd kind of rather just rip off the Band-Aid and start working. For some reason, I was still holding myself to the early workout and get ready in the morning framework of my old corporate life, despite not really needing to anymore, and that also felt like an area ripe to change. I feel most creative early in the morning when other people aren't awake yet or expecting a reply from me, and my energy and motivation tends to hit a low point in the afternoons, and the worst part of my job is being on social media way too much, which usually begins with positive intent and ends with me scrolling TikTok for 2 hours. My goal was to achieve even more in 2023, but while doing less. Less context switching, less work that doesn't matter, less doom scrolling, less discourse with anonymous Twitter accounts, and crucially, to just enjoy it more. So, restructuring my workday with a few key tweaks seemed to address most of this. I want to hit a quick 5 to 10 minutes of meditation, prayer, quiet time, whatever you want to call it, after waking up, drinking coffee, feeding the animals, and brushing my teeth, and then pretty immediately sit down for a 2 to 3 hour sprint at around 7, and then knock out the most important focused creative work just first thing in the morning, so it's done before the day really starts to require things of me. I've heard this referred to as playing offense first. Then taking a break to check in with people, knock out the easy to-dos, go outside, walk the dog. And here's the kind of the big shift: midday exercise when my energy is starting to dip instead of doing it first thing in the morning. And then eating, showering, becoming presentable, and going into my meetings in the afternoon and responding to emails and Slacks and things like that at the end of the day. I blocked my mornings completely, so no one can even schedule a meeting before 1 p.m. And I realize that the nature of my work lends itself to empowerment over how my day is structured, and I feel very lucky for that. But leveraging whatever flexibility you have available to you to structure your day with the habits that work best for you can have disproportionate ROI. Maybe you do like the long morning routine, or maybe you like to sleep in and you like to do work late at night. There's probably a window of time during the day that you have to be responsive to the people you work with, but you might have more agency over when you do your actual work and rest than you realize. You can leverage these tactics financially as well. If one of your goals is to spend less money and another is to check in more frequently with a friend, you can build a weekly habit around doing both. If your friend is also trying to improve their finances, you can suggest like a weekly coffee date where you spend the first 30 minutes filling out your budgets together and talking about it, and the second catching up on life. You'd probably be surprised how many of your friends also want an accountability buddy and social connection in a realm that can be as isolating as money. Recognizing how interconnected the pillars of our lives are completely flipped a switch for me, and and I hope it does for you too. So if you end up doing the review or instituting some layered habit changes in your life, slide into our inbox at moneywithkatie@morningbrew.com and tell us about your experience. And if you want to hear the full episode of this week's show, click the video that just popped up on the screen and in the description of this video. Our show is a production of Morning Brew and is produced by Henna Velez and me, Katie Gatti-Tassan. Devin Emery is our Chief Content Officer, and our video editors are Christy Muldoon, Sebastian Vega, and Nicole Friedman. Additional fact-checking comes from Kate Brandt.